This is an artist's conception of the home of Chief Seattle, an archaeological site located on the shores of Suquamish of what is now Agate Passage. A few remaining Indian elders recall stories of these true longhouses. It is said that some extended and stretched for several miles. These structures were large enough to accommodate the extended family. Marriage resulted in acquiring new family members, hence the necessity of adding a new fire. The longhouses were located along relatively smooth beaches to accommodate the beaching of large numbers of canoes. The patriarch, if wealthy, and he usually was, would host large gatherings, hence the need for a large parking lot to accommodate his guests and their canoes. There were many reasons for such gatherings: religious and marriage ceremonies, and of course the potlatch, a giveaway party to establish prestige and nobility. Life on the shores of the Northwest could not have happened without the ever-precious dugout canoe, itself a symbol of prestige and wealth. It was inevitable that the environment of the Pacific Northwest should contribute to and support seafaring cultures. The elements of culture were related to marine life, the social, economic, spiritual, and transportation. Water transportation afforded a unique economic, social, and religious way of life. Native villages remained a permanent place of residence. Family members moved from place to place in food gathering or just for social purposes. Men, on occasion, would leave the village for seafaring expeditions, including fishing, sealing, and warfare. Travel, since it was so exclusively by water, gave rise to the well-known dugout canoe. To restore native canoes, as they were once known, new ones had to be built. The U.S. Forest Service and the U.S. Park Service, recognizing that these people once owned the majestic cedar trees, lent their support to get the necessary logs into the hands of canoe carvers. The cooperation of the state and federal agencies was excellent. Without the help from private industry, these huge logs could not have been delivered. True to the old tradition, nothing is taken from nature without giving thanks. Trees were blessed before they were cut down. A woman's song of the Coacoodle expresses it well. As she addresses the tree, she responds thusly: "Look at me, friend. I've come to ask you for your dress. For you have come to provide for us. For there is nothing about you that we cannot use. Long life, giver."
First of all, maybe it would be interesting for you to tell us how you got involved in this project.
Well, there is a little story to it. There was a suggestion that if we're going to cover the maritime history, we've got to involve and recognize the fact that there was a mode of transportation on water that long superseded what we have today. So if we're going to tell a complete story of the history, then we've got to involve the native aspect. So there was also an awareness among Indian people to revive, let's tell some stories, let's depict and bring out what we can hear from the elders so the children will learn. And this is pretty universal amongst Indians to want their children to learn what it was like. This is the way we had it. This was our language. This was our culture. This is the way, these were our songs. Native canoe was only one aspect, but it represents so much of the daily life, of the spiritual life. For instance, you see the blessing of the tree is that I'm not taking your life as I cut you down. I'm trading that life for a new life, which will be born in the canoe. And that's what made the canoe so revered, almost revered, is that it also had life, because it gave them so much, and their whole livelihood depended upon water transportation. All the people lived around the water, and they needed this kind of thing. So the canoe sort of lent itself as a symbol of what we call a culture element. There was a reasonable amount of willingness to accept the idea that the canoe could be featured. You see what I mean? That this was one thing that could be done. It could have been language, could have been arts, or could have been any other thing. But I sort of felt strongly about the canoe because I had pulled in one of the racing canoes years ago when I was in college, and I still remember that experience of being in a canoe and pulling the paddle and getting in a race, and pulling your insides out. It was a lot of fun. It was a good tradition, and that sort of caught on. So the canoe wasn't all that foreign to me. I had a love for him, and I think that enthusiasm that I have for the canoes and appreciation, I think it was shared.
It sounds as if, too, that you folks had to develop a partnership cooperation with the Forest Service to make this happen. Could you tell us about that?
Well, it would have never happened without the cooperation of the Forest Service. I don't think we could have pulled it off. Cedar trees, materials, could be provided to Indian groups for cultural purposes, to keep the culture, because they were so dependent upon the cedar tree, because it's much like the song that the Kwakiutl women sing to the tree, and it exemplifies what the tree meant to them. As the state of Washington celebrates its 100th birthday, it is well that we take this opportunity to acknowledge the wealth of the Native American history in an appropriate way. Tribal groups are responding to a challenge to continue with their canoeing legacy.
Praise be the future for our children now, and a blessed upon us.
We need to support the revival of this state's native heritage. From the waters of the northern border to the coast, we witness an awakening of the seafaring blood. We can help. We can hear it from the Lummi, the Nooksack, the Upper Skagit, the Samish, Swinomish, and the Tulalip. From the coast edges are singing. Among those are the Quileutes, the Quinaults. Echoes are beginning to heard from the Clallam and the Macaw and the Skokomish, and just recently the Puyallup and the Muckleshoot. A dramatic awakening of the Duwamish is also encouraging. They are hearing of this time to challenge youth and energy to the discipline of canoe teams as they confront the agony of grueling canoe racing. The purpose of the Native American Canoe Project is to capitalize on existing water festivals and to expand these ideas into a grand gathering of canoes from as many tribes as can be engaged. Hopefully, from all of the water and the tribes of Western Washington, as well as of our neighbors to the north. During the latter week of July 1989, native canoes of all sizes and forms will stream down Puget Sound to rendezvous at Suquamish tribal grounds. Here they will camp and make preparations for the grand flotilla to paddle across the sound to a landing site at Seattle. Here they will furnish a sample of native lore that existed on these shores long before this land became a state. It is appropriate that an observance be made coincident with the 100th anniversary of what is now the state of Washington.